this work session tonight in a swift, efficient manner. Let's get in and out of here and be able to make the best decisions after the meeting as we can. Provide us with the opportunities and resources that we need to progress the city. Ask for your blessings in every aspect, business, financial, commercial, and even personal. I ask you to continue to bless us, in your name we pray.
Amen. All right, guys. Well, I hope y'all had a very informative session. Dr. McClendon and I heard him speak in Lincoln a couple of weeks ago, and it was very informative. And so, I'm sorry I wasn't able to be here with y'all. What I want to do first, and I know we've got interviews, and the first one's scheduled at 5. But what I want to do first is, like we usually do, go ahead and get our employees. Is Karen gonna be here tonight?
She didn't say.
Okay, that's fine. First up, we have Mike Whetstone. Okay, thank you very much. We've got Mike Whetstone, City Hall Improvement Overseer and wire puller and everything else. So, Mike, what you got for us tonight, bud?
Well, just some things that we need to approve to proceed on. First one would be the lockers for the police department. $7,404.
$7,404.
Yes, that's within budget. Actually, it's slightly under.
All right.
The next would be cabinets for the break room area and the muster room, what they call it. You know, we had no response last time we sent out the bid. This time we had 2, and the low one was Yoder at $35.68. Essentially, I'm just bringing this to you for information. You had actually said last time it was less than 5,000, just go with it.
Okay.
The next one would be the desk and the filing cabinets to go in the police department that we had in the budget on the remodel. Total this time would be right at $12,000, give or take a few, because we're still looking at some changes in some chairs. $93.38 of that roughly will be the service printing, and about $26.62 for Brandon. This puts that with the prior spend on the modular furniture for the investigation area that essentially divides up that office space. That puts the total, I thought I had that on, was 902 over what we had allotted for it, but we did have some, we had some savings on the lockers and all, so it should offset that. Part of that was a little mixed up from the beginning. They actually deducted off a lot of the stuff to be able to get some new filing cabinets and stuff. Cause I was, whenever we did the budget in the beginning, it was for furniture. I wasn't aware that their filing cabinets were all falling apart too. So they took off a lot of they're reusing everything that they can in order to replace the filing cabinets and stuff that are bad. That's pretty much correct. So that takes care of the renovation part. I got a couple more things. Well, one more thing here.
Okay.
That has to do with that, and then the other is just some maintenance items. These windows on this side of the building, we're still having a little water infiltration.
Is that 1,600 per window?
No, that's 1,600 total. And actually, the biggest part of that is getting the big lift back out here to get up here to do it. So, I would say stop the water. We're trying to get the water stopped. We narrowed it down to just a few little places as well. And when they've come back and they've addressed some things, the roofers come back and looked at some things. And, I mean, we've almost got it sealed up, but that's where we're at with it.
Well, I think we need to finish getting that sealed up, is my opinion.
But think about that. This is on to the maintenance for the HVAC system that's installed. The chiller and the boiler system, the water that circulates through those systems are supposed to be treated so they don't become corrosive or you're full of garbage where they don't transfer the heat or the cold effectively. It also prolongs the life of the system. The last system didn't have it, and whenever they cut the pipe, we would essentially come out like solid black water. The price from Garrett Callahan, now this is recommendation from the person that installed it and trained manuals. The initial treatment of the water to make sure it's cleaned out and at the right pH balance is $22.43.50, and then it would be $400 per quarter.
More time? How much?
Excuse me, $22.43.50 initial charge for all the chemicals to, it's essentially be like a pool, they're sort of just shocking it, cleaning it up and shocking it. And then a $400 per quarter maintenance agreement. Now, this is just for the water that flows in the system. These are the same company that the hospital uses, and I believe the high school uses. In addition to that, I know in the beginning, whenever you talk to Train in the very beginning, actually, some of it before my time, they had talked to you about maintenance on the system once it was installed. Well, they had a lot of trouble with the boiler. And essentially, they just got it fixed, and they started the warranty in July on it, so we got a year from July on the boiler system. The warranty on the rest of the system's about to run out in, I believe, December. So when they start looking at maintenance, we went through this contract, and we figured out everything that we could do in-house, like cleaning the coils on the chillers, the filters, all that stuff, we've taken it out. This is all just bare bones, and this is only the big systems that can't be serviced locally. The contract for that would be the chillers, the boilers, and the big air handlers that we had replaced. And the controls, which is all the computer stuff to make sure it's kept up to date and if we have any problems or need changing. Essentially, that is $21.78 per quarter for the contract. $21.78 per quarter, $87.12 per year.
You have an extra one of those and I'll make them copies of all those.
I was gonna try to do it before, but with the train stuff, or
All of it, all the things that you just told them. It was in that email, but I don't have a copy of the email in my folder.
I'll just go run it through just before I leave and just give them all a copy.
Yeah. Alright, anything else, Mike?
That's all.
That's all? Any questions for Mike? All this stuff should be on the agenda tomorrow night. Unless y'all have an issue with that. Okay. Mike, thank you. I almost called you Matt. You can call worse than you.
Brother's that.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, moving on to, we got some police department stuff. We've got Shane Bland to attend submachine gun instructor training program. That's in Glencoe, Georgia, August 24th through 29th. No registration fee, expenses for meals and fuel will be incurred.
Machine gun.
Don't get hung up on the word machine gun.
Do we have some machine guns here?
We're in process of doing patrol rifles.
Alright, any questions on that one? Okay, approve expenses, police department, or police officer Matt Abrams to attend a patrol officer's response to street level drugs. That's in Meridian, Mississippi, August 24th through 29th. No registration fee, expenses for meals and fuel will be incurred. Questions? Okay. And we're going to look at approving some expenses for Police Department Lieutenant Willis Watley and Lieutenant Mike Smith to attend the ROCIC Homicide Conference in Greensboro, North Carolina, September 7th through 10th, 2014. Registration fee is $125 per employee, and there will be some additional fees for lodging and meals. Let's talk about that one for a minute, Chris. What is that?
ROCIC is an organization that we're paid members of, and they provide us with intel equipment. Like if, let's say we needed some buy money, say we needed like a big cash roll, we get it from ROCIC. When we need to monitor a parking lot, we can get an electric box that's actually a camera, or a traffic cone that's actually a camera. If we need intel reference any organized or any kind of RICO type activity, we can get it from this organization. Annually, they have a homicide conference where they'll pull in investigators and they'll have a topic. This year, it's the crime scene investigators from Sandy Hook. They'll be doing a full-on presentation. It's a really good conference. I've been myself before. It's been several years, but it's a really good conference.
Okay. Any questions there?
I have a question. On a lot of these things that we send the officers to, are these certificates, I mean, do they get certifications that come back with that? Or is it just like a workshop training? Because I have a lot of people ask me outside, not just you guys, but us and everybody that we send off to our office, and people wanna know, are they bringing back certifications to show that they've been there, you know?
Oh.
And then I gotta think about that. I said, well, maybe yours actually are certified in certain things.
Well, some of the training that we go to, like this, where it says submachine gun instructor, that's at FLETC. That's the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. Shane Bland's been on a list to attend this class for almost 2 years. Now, he will come back with an instructor level certification. Like the homicide conference, when I went to the chief conference, we come back with a certificate of attendance, and we get the CUs that apply towards our state accreditation. So every time we send someone to school, they bring back a piece of paper showing that they attended, and we put that in a training file. And we enter it in ePost, which is the state's database to put in training hours for your police officer certification. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, answers a lot of other people's questions through me, yes, thank you.
And generally what happens is, for the last couple of years, I wait to the kind of the end of the year, when I make sure the training budget doesn't get hit. Like if we had to hire a bunch of people, you know, we had to send a bunch of people to the academy, or, so that's why I've had so much training here at the end of the budget year.
Then let's just remember that all this training is budgeted. This is not in addition to budgeted money. This is all in the budget, so. Alright, any questions regarding that? Trish, you got something?
I'll get Chris.
Okay.
I
Chris?
think it's just something that we left off in the, I'll get it.
Okay.
What is it, Trish?
I think we left some things off of all of these.
What?
Well, they're gonna stay, aren't they?
Yeah.
So don't they need some lodging?
Yeah.
And on the other one, don't they need some fuel? So I think we just left some items off
the
that I
agenda?
need to add.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you don't mind, if you'll kind of touch base with me and make sure I get all of them on there. I just don't wanna leave anything off.
Hey Chris, one more thing real quick, bud, the museum, has anyone from the museum, particularly Donna Renfro, talked to you about closing 8th Street between Broadway and Norton on Saturday, October 11th?
No, but it's fine.
They're gonna have a barbecue cook-off competition, fine arts and craft show. Like I said, it's on October the 11th, between 9 and 3. The event will be held on museum ground, and this is a letter from them. Possibly blocking 8th Street between Broadway and Norton if permitted. You see a problem with that? Can you handle that? Can you get that taken care of?
We'll just make a copy.
Okay, good deal.
Alright.
You just have that one.
Okay.
Just have that one.
Anything else?
And we'll let them know that we got that part handled, okay, cause they're gonna be here later. Alright, anything else for Chief Carden? Okay,
Alright,
thanks a
thank you.
lot, man.
Thanks for your time.
Appreciate it.
Okay, here's the sign.
Alright, guys, Karen,
Yes, sir.
we'll go ahead and jump into your portion and get you on out of here.
All right. We're looking at July revenues, and if you look at the month, it's got $1,906,90.79 for the revenues. When we moved our CDs to a different bank, they had to go in and out, so both revenues and expenses are showing a $929,575 movement, which you wouldn't see ordinarily, so
Okay.
keep that in mind, looking at the numbers. And expenses for the month were $1,995,373. Right now, our surplus stands at $626,920. As I said, we did do some reinvestments with those CDs that it matured in July, and we have 2 more that are coming up, or already have come up in August, and they were reinvested at the bank where they were already being held.
Okay, any questions for Karen on this accounts payable stuff, guys?
Yes, sir. She wants money to go.
In the home stretch, it's getting budget time, isn't it, Karen?
It is.
Have we gotten
Be
all
here
the-
before you know it.
have
It's
we got-
already here.
Yeah, that's true.
Have we gotten all the information in we requested?
We have gotten in most of it, not all of it. Some people's audits weren't quite done, so they've got a letter saying that their accountant's gonna forward it as soon as they have it. They gave us what they could. And we're gonna start working on departmental budgets pretty soon, I imagine,
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Alright,
People are adhering to the deadline?
For the most part, and then the mayor's gotten some that I have not been privy to, and I think Tricia probably gotten some, so I don't really have the whole picture. We've all gotta get together and compare it.
Is that true?
I told her she had all done.
Don't you got police and fire and,
Oh, yeah, we got, all them we got all them.
okay, well, if we don't have anything else for Karen, we'll go ahead and get started with these interviews. I'll go get Matt, he's our first one. Thank you, Karen. You're free to go.
I'm gonna go, Greg.
I like that one up there.
Have had some conversations pertaining to this particular subject, but, and I'm pretty much just gonna turn it over to him. What he's here to talk to us about is JCS. They're actually the company, just give a little history on
Okay.
JCS and then tell us what you got in mind.
All right. About 10 years ago, the city entered its first contract with a private probation company, and I don't remember the name of that company. JCS is now the third. The first one lasted about 3 years, second one lasted about 3 years, and JCS has been around for 3 or 4 years at this point.
Probation service was the first one, I think.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right, but that's too many years ago for me to remember. But, prior to that, we didn't have any probation service. And then we started with a private probation company because that was kind of the trend. A lot of cities, especially smaller cities, were moving in that direction. It had started probably about 10 years prior to that, and it had kind of grown, and then we kind of jumped on that bandwagon. We've had a private probation company of some sort in place for roughly the last 10 years. I don't have any particular complaints with JCS or the way that they're doing things. And I wanna, make that clear. I don't see anything that they're doing wrong, or anything like that. But I think it may be time for us to re-examine our basic structure and ask ourselves the question, do we need a private probation company? As I'm sure you're probably aware, some of our neighboring towns are involved in rather substantial litigation in federal court right now. Harpersville and Childersburg particularly, and there are probably some other towns in the area that are gonna follow suit. And the allegations, and the case is still going, so I don't know, eventually, ultimately how it's gonna come out. But, the allegations are that those towns are responsible for some misdeeds by JCS employees. And I think that we need to re-examine the need for it. My primary motivation is limiting potential liability for the city of Sylacauga. Y'all have appointed me as a part-time prosecutor. That means I'm not down there every day. I can't, handhold on all 500, 600, 700 cases that come through the court system every month, all 5,000 cases that are currently under the probation system, and neither can the judge. We're there 2 days a month essentially, and we depend largely on JCS. Now we have put a system in place. We have put a system in place that I'm confident with. We've put a system in place that has made it so that all these other towns have gotten sued, but Sylacauga ain't got sued yet. I feel confident that the system that we've put in place is solid. But what you can't take account of is what if somebody accidentally or on purpose steps outside that system. And that could potentially expose Sylacauga to substantial liability by the actions of someone who's not even employed by the city of Sylacauga. The second thing that I would ask you to consider is this. We have put this system in place so that we can monitor basically payment of fines and court costs, because that's 99% of the punishment that the municipal court doles out. We'll put a lot of people in jail. If you look at our caseload and then you look at the number of people who actually end up with any time in jail, it's really pretty small. The vast majority of the punishment is fines and costs. We needed somebody to monitor that, so we experimented with this private probation company, and then we said, all right, now the cost of this, we're gonna get the defendants to pay it. Y'all, Tom, I know you've been to city court. Joe, I know you've been to city court. I can't remember if the rest of y'all have been
To
down
observe,
but
to
you
observe.
need to come and look. Okay.
I'll sure use it.
We're at, you can't get blood out of turnip. I mean, you just can't. And these are the folks that can least afford fines and costs, much less to fund an out-of-town company, JCS, to provide probation services. Just as an example, if the very common payment amount that's set up is $140 a month. And the reason for that is $40 of that is a supervision fee, goes straight to JCS, and $100 goes towards the fine and cost. Well, if the payment is $140, but only 100 of it is going towards the fine and cost, then you gotta stretch it out that many more months before the fine and cost are paid in full, which adds another $40 for each of those months that you stretched it out. Okay, and so it can become a vicious cycle. We also have situations where some of the fines that are mandated by statute, I don't have any control over it, the judge doesn't have any control over it. The only way to do it with that $40 fee tacked on would be to set payments up more than these people's income are. Which is, there's no point in doing that.
Right.
There's no point in doing that. If that $140 a month was going all to the city instead of 100 to the city and 40 to an out-of-town company, then the fees and costs are gonna be paid more expeditiously to the city, which means we're gonna be able to close our books that much sooner. And it means these folks are gonna be out from under the gun that much sooner. They've paid their debt, close it up, move along. And so there's, given the potential liability, given the difficulties that it's created for the folks around here who basically can least afford to fund this kind of project, I just think you need to reconsider whether we need to renew it. The contract is annual with an automatic renewal beginning October 1 of every year. If it is to be non-renewed, then the contract calls for a notice period to JCS, and that's approaching rapidly. And so whatever decision y'all decide to make, I would encourage you to make it quickly so that the appropriate notices could go out.
Do you know when do we have the end of this month?
I think
Is it
my
30 days?
recollection, it's been a while since I've looked at that contract, Rocky, but my recollection is it requires a 30-day notice, and the renewal date each year is October 1, which would mean basically August 31st
Yeah.
would be the date that we'd have to provide notice if you decided to not renew.
So what would we do instead of using this company?
Mr. Sisk's office would have an extra workload. Instead of payments being made to JCS, payments would be made directly to the clerk's office. And they would have to, basically keep track of who has paid, who hadn't. If they hadn't paid, then, we have to put them back on a docket, let them come in and explain why. Sometimes there's a real good reason why somebody hadn't paid. Judge is not gonna, if there's a real valid excuse, the judge is not gonna do anything except, say, okay, pick up making your payments. But, sometimes there's not a valid excuse, and we have to look at our options.
In making the payments to the JCS, do they sometimes don't make their full payment?
Frequently.
So it, just like you said, stretching it out longer, and the JCS is making more money.
It's basic, and I hate to say this, but we've talked about this before in this room. It's basically the same cycle as a payday loan or a title loan, but with fines. It's very similar.
I can definitely see that comparison. Payday loans and stuff like that are interest rate, whereas this is a flat fee, and so sometimes it'd be less interest-wise, sometimes it might be more interest-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about somebody who's got a $200 speeding ticket, and they're making a $50 a month payment. Well, it's gonna take them 20 months to pay that off, because only 10 out of that 50 is going towards the 200.
That's right.
So it'll take them 20 months at 50 a month. That $200 speed ticket's then turned into $1,000. And $1,000 for speeding ticket, ludicrous,
Yeah, sure.
beyond ludicrous.
And it's not like we're collecting it.
And it's not like you're collecting it. And if the city was collecting $50 a month, it's done in 4 months.
Yeah, that's right.
How's
get
this,
theirs
how's this
first.
gonna affect your department?
They get theirs first, as far as their fee. I'm sorry, I spoke at the same time you did.
How is this gonna affect your department as far as the workload?
If we drop JCS,
Is this gonna require another part-timer, or can your office handle it as is?
That remains to be seen. How's it gonna affect us? The rough numbers are right now, and it of course changes every day. There's approximately 5,400 cases that we're managing right now, and approximately 4,800 on probation. So it would basically double the workload.
However, I have had conversations with Mr. Sis, and he has welcomed the extra workload with open arms, because I think he is on the same, I think he's thinking along the same wavelengths as Dale, with it saving the city some possible, litigation and maybe some suits in the future.
Well, we've had a lot of conversations about that as well, but,
Certainly help the defendant, and again, the probation companies, plural,
they take care of themselves first.
Sure, always.
I know, I would like to not see the probation end before all fines are paid. And that is the case sometimes, right? Probation is over before the total amount is paid back.
Yes,
Yes.
and, you know, like I say, almost universally, the payment amount that they said is $140. Again, $100 is going towards fines and costs. Well, city court is limited by statute to 2 years maximum probation, 24 months. So that's $2,400, if they make every payment on time, that's $2,400 that's gone towards the city. Well, there are several single cases that have statutory minimums that are above $2,400. And so, and they're still setting them up on these $140 payments. And so again, if they do everything they're supposed to do at the end of that probationary period, at the end of that 2-year period, their fine's still not paid. And then that's not even taking into account the people who have multiple cases. Ken just said we got 5,400 cases open right now. It's not 5,400 people, it's 5,400 cases. Bunch of these folks, we've named 2, we were talking earlier, we named 2 that I bet are gonna have triple digits just by themselves, you know, and so.
Cases.
We have one upcoming, on a DUI, their minimum mandatory fine is $16,000.
Mandatory minimum is $16,000. And, you know, with a maximum probationary period of 2 years, to pay that off, minimum payment would be, trying to do the math real fast, $800 a month. You're never gonna see that, you know.
They ain't gonna pay a
Which
lot.
is better, continue this process or put them in jail, whereas you said we don't sentence many of them to jail.
And you can't put somebody in jail just because of an inability to pay.
That's right.
United States Constitution, United States Supreme Court have made that
No,
abundantly
I mean on
clear.
your repeat, you said when I'm asked.
Yeah,
for-
now
for
this
this-
particular individual, and I know who Ken's talking about, this particular individual with her record and with the particular facts of this case, the statute is gonna call for, in addition to a mandatory minimum fine of $16,000 some odd dollars, a mandatory minimum 120 days behind bars too. Can't be suspended, can't be probated, 120 days behind bars, up to a year. But that's in addition to the
And
fines.
judges are mandated by
Not-
legislature
yeah,
to do that.
Not
They don't
instead of
have
the
any
fines, in
discretion
addition to
in
the
that.
fines.
Can't pay your fines from jail either.
That's exactly right.
Twisted web.
Now, she's the exception. She's not the rule down there, thankfully.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't have too many of those mandatory minimum $16,000 ones. In fact, this might be the first one I've run into during my 8.5 years.
Now Ken's invited me down there several times, and I got down there one afternoon to see exactly to see exactly who the turnips are that you're squeezing blood out of.
Mhm.
And, it's a different group. It's hard to understand the problem.
It's a different demographic, and, you know, it's just we're trying to fund this private company with people who can least afford it. I mean,
Are there ministries or programs that are being used?
we use, you know, when we can, we use, community service with various and sundry charitable organizations around town. Again, you know, Supreme Court's made it clear, you cannot put somebody in jail for an inability to pay. But you can order them to do community service. And so, you know, we do that from time to time. But then there are some additional difficulties there. Number one, if you order somebody to do community service, you gotta have somebody to monitor it. Do they actually go and work those 8 hours that day? A shocking number of the people who come before the municipal court of the city of Sylacauga are on disability. And if they're on disability, that means they are unable to work. And if they are unable to work, you cannot order them to do community service.
You can't put them out cutting grass, can you?
That's right. That's right. And, you know, it's catch-22 in a lot of ways. And there aren't any easy answers. I'm just thinking it's time to re-examine, is a private probation company part of the solution? I don't think it is. I think it's time for us to bring it back in-house.
What would we lose without them?
They handle all of the collecting, the money, the payments. They, in theory, do supervision. The supervision takes the form of having someone report to their office over there on 4th Street and make the payments most of the time. One of the issues that I run into is that when we bring somebody back on a probation revocation, we kind of get a report about, well, okay, what did they do to violate their probation? It'll be, well, they've missed 32 out of their 48 scheduled appointments. Well, why did we wait until they missed 32 appointments, you know, to bring them back to court? Ken's office is gonna be the one charged with picking up the slack there, taking the payments, monitoring, you know, who hasn't paid, and then bringing them back before the court to find out why, you know, they hadn't been making the payments, hadn't been doing what they're supposed to do. JCS has a vested interest in not bringing them back after the second miss, because if they miss, it stretches out the payment term even longer, and then okay? Ken's not gonna have that.
We're gonna have to have a probation officer.
We toyed with that. We batted that around. I don't know, honestly, Doug. I mean, if that's something y'all wanna do, then
Well, I mean,
we have
that's-
to work with it.
We wanna do it as easy
Do
as.
we need somebody who had a speeding ticket to be supervised on probation?
Well, and Ken and I have talked about it several times, and we, you know, I think everybody's in agreement that we need to do away with that company. But we, you know, we gotta put some things in place so we'll know that we're protected, I mean, that we're doing the right thing when we do away with it, so.
Have you figured out a dollar amount as to what you think, I guess not would save us, but
So you're saying we would need.
we would end up with compared to where we're at if we did do away with JCS?
Have to have one. There
The
are
only
a
thing I
handful of
can
cases
tell you
that
for
come
certain
along where probation
is
and
that
supervision is
whatever
very
we
close.
get from the defendant
This is
will
misdemeanor
actually
felonies,
apply to
traffic
the fines
felonies,
and
you know,
costs.
vast majority of what comes along is pretty
We're
minor.
in, right now, it's not,
Once in
we
a while,
have,
something serious comes along, like this girl that's,
some
you know,
people
facing
that
this
will come in
mandatory minimum
and
$16,000
pay,
fine.
say,
I've got a city of T
hypothetically $41. Well, the probation company will take their $40 and apply a
So
dollar
then
to
if-
the
but
fines and
if
costs.
they're-
So you're not putting
If they're
that
set
extra
up on
money into the
payments
department,
like
you're
they are
actually
now,
closing the case quick.
And then they
That's
don't
right.
make their
Yes.
payments,
Which
then
It allows
Ken's
us
office
to get
would
rid of
issue a
cases
warrant
or realize them.
for their
Court
arrest.
to get
Put
rid
it
of
on the
cases.
docket, send them notice.
But the reason I was thinking,
Can't
with
really-
this
can't really
$40
issue-
extra,
can't really issue
it's
a
coming to the
warrant
department,
for
but
the
it's not,
arrest, but you
it's,
can put it on the
it's
docket
going
and tell
toward
them
their,
to come and explain to the judge
their
why
bill.
they didn't do what they were ordered to do.
That's right.
And,
If
you
we
know,
set up
if they-
payment,
Get that out of there.
we're gonna
Now,
call
if they
them
got a payment
in the
arrangement of
hospital,
$140 a
all the
month,
time. Well, no,
we're getting
okay,
100.
no problem.
If
But
we
if
set
it's
up a
because they didn't want to.
payment arrangement of $140 a
Then
month through the
Mary
court,
would-
we get
would have
$140 a
options.
month.
Okay, okay.
But
And
they-
we're
you know,
turning over-
they have to
we're
have
turning
an
over
opportunity to
cases.
Explain why.
More
But that doesn't mean you
Well,
have to
we
just
get to
accept,
hold it for a
you
few
know,
minutes,
whatever.
but
Well, yeah.
So
as
they're-
we all know,
and
we're
then
a
like that,
collection agency.
They're not actually on
That's right.
probation, they're not,
Well,
they're
he
not
can-
considered on
He can
probation.
put them on probation, he can give them a suspended jail
Okay.
sentence and put them on unsupervised probation,
Okay,
okay? Not all probation has to be supervised, and that's what JCS has been nominally providing as supervision, but you can do unsupervised probation, okay? And like I say, suspended jail sentence, unsupervised probation, let them make their payments. If they don't do what they're supposed to do, not because they can't, but just because they don't want to, then bring them back to court. If they don't have a valid excuse, then Barry would have the option of revoking their probation and executing the sentence.
okay.
Doug, would SRO have time in their schedule to serve as a probation officer?
I don't think we need to do that.
And any probation officer would have to be separate and distinct from the police department.
What's your contract with the county?
Probably, we could
For those-
explore that.
For those minor cases, or Are
For
we
those
supposed-
handful of
yeah.
cases where supervision would be appropriate, we could explore that. I
Or the
hadn't even
state.
thought about that, yeah,
County
cause
or the state.
they've got full-time probation officers over there. And
Or
like I
maybe
say,
you
they
can contract
don't,
with
the ones
for
where you
court.
really need supervision
that?
just don't
The
come along.
county.
It's state
County and
probation.
state.
Okay.
State probation, they've got full-time probation officers across the street over there. And for those handful of cases that come along where, you know, maybe supervision would be appropriate.
But it comes
we
with
could
a
look
fee
at
as well.
contracting them. Yeah, they could pay, they would pay a fee to them, you know,
Can
even
we
if
be
the city
ready-
had to
can
pay
we-
a little
we'd
more
be
than.
ready to
what
pull the
they're-
trigger on
it's
this?
a lot cheaper than hiring full-time.
This year?
It will be.
I certainly hope
I
so.
don't know why we couldn't.
We're,
We gotta pull the trigger
I'm
on
glad
it
you
tomorrow
thought
night.
about that.
What was the
That's why I
question?
asked.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but we gotta be ready to take over October first.
it's not gonna be simple, it's not gonna be easy.
It's not gonna be simple next year,
But
or
it's
easy
gotta be
next year
done.
though, is it?
See the- see the-
Any time that happens, there's gonna be a transitional phase, it just is, there's no question of that.
It's either jump in or wait a year, right?
I'm sorry.
It's either jump into it or wait a year.
That's
or-
right.
Or
Well,
can you
you're
go
gonna have
find the-
exactly the same timetable and thing to do with it. It's
That's-
not like you can get an extra 2 months
That's right.
jump
Right.
start on it.
It's either now or wait till this time next year.
Can you end this contract anytime with 30-day notice, or is it just?
No, it's
only
annual.
this time of the year.
So you gotta do it now or wait a year.
That's right. That's,
And be
You
stuck
do
in
that?
exactly the same
Contract? You read
situation.
the contract?
I have,
I'm sorry.
How would you spread the word? JCS would do it to the people that's paying them,
What about
company off?
the people
Yeah,
at JCS
we-
has
we-
probation now?
Yeah.
Would they stay with JCS until that probation is cleared?
They would not, they would, you know, once September 30th rolls around.
Yeah, when
then
we
they're still
sever,
on
we
probation.
sever.
It's just they'd no longer be supervised by
Okay.
JCS.
Okay.
They wouldn't come to the JCS office to make a payment, they would come here.
Come here. Or they could, you know, they could mail it in, Ken and I were talking about that earlier. JCS, where JCS, if you had a speeding ticket and you couldn't pay it in full, and you got put on probation and had to make payments, you would have to appear to make your payments on the speeding ticket. Ain't no reason they couldn't just mail a payment into Ken.
yeah, and we are working on, and it's kind of been put to a halt, but there are website options that allow you to pay fines online.
Yes, and.
We don't have those options.
Yeah, we did.
We do now?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
They're in court.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We sure
The,
do.
I doubt it's utilized very much. Is that accurate?
Not,
It used to be on the piece of paper that the person was given, that they could go online to in court and pay it. I don't know
right,
whether that's been.
and, most of our defendants aren't set up,
Savvy.
they don't have the ability.
That's what I was gonna say, you have to consider the demographic here.
Yeah.
I would just bet that a substantial portion of the folks who come to city court don't have internet access.
They're going to the library to use the internet anyway, so.
Yeah, and you have to have a credit card.
Yeah.
You have to have internet access, you have to have a credit card.
Well,
I hear you.
reality is, guys, the only people that need municipal court are the people that can't afford to pay. Businessman comes through town and gets a ticket, he sends us a money order
You
or
never see it.
whatever, never see it. But we actually have people on probation for, not wearing a seatbelt.
Yeah.
$41.
$41, and even back when it was $10,
Had
even
people on
when it was
probation.
$10, we would have people on probation.
So that
just
was
like
a, that was a $10, that was a,
$51.
$10, no court costs, $10.
but if they were on probation, then it was 50.
Add 40 to it each month.
Yes.
So every month they need to pay
Plus
that
the $10 setup fee, cause there's a $10
That's
setup fee. in
$10
there.
outside plus, if you go
Plus
to court, it was
$10 setup.
25.
I
It's
got you.
10 outside, if you go to court, it was 25.
Yeah, then
You
it
ready
went,
to go?
yeah, then it went to, it was 10
Yeah,
in
ready.
court, then it went to 25, then it went to 41.
Say that.
We actually,
somebody
all the
paying
time,
another
I
I'm sorry, Billy, I can't-
Hold on just a second, hold on.
I'm
Hold
sorry.
on. Go ahead, Ken. Billy, hold on just a second.
There are, on every JCS report that we get, and without exaggeration, we have less than $1 applied to some folks, fines and costs. Now, they may go over there with $40.35. Well, the probation company's gonna get their $40 and we get 35 cents.
there's a formula, and I don't recall the details of what the formula is, but there is a formula built into the contract that in the event that someone makes less than their scheduled payment, of how that partial payment is to be apportioned. I can't tell you whether or not they've lived up to that formula, but there is a formula in there.
So, at the end of the day, guys, Billy, go ahead and
Well,
ask your.
he basically answered
Okay.
my question about, you know, if they owe 140 and they pay 60, then they get 40 and we get 20.
Yes,
That's right.
That's not the way it's supposed to be.
But that's how it is, that's how it's working.
I don't know, that's
That's
Ken's
how it's
department, I don't
Yeah.
even know about that world.
Yeah. So, guys, I guess at the end of the day,
Cost
we've got some we've got a lot of information from Dale and from Ken. Is this something that we're comfortable putting on the agenda for Wednesday? Why do I keep saying Wednesday? For tomorrow night? I think we need to. Because if we don't, we got another year, basically, because we don't have another council meeting this month. So,
You
we
can
don't.
be ready, Ken? You can be ready? We
we're
gotta be.
gonna hit the arena and
All right,
Give it a shot.
if they pull the trigger tomorrow night, we gotta be ready.
we're already working in some areas to get ready.
You know, you and I have been talking about it for several months, and you,
Yeah, I've been for
you've been
this
getting.
since 2012.
I know.
And it's not gonna be simple, it's not gonna be,
Okay.
easy, but I think it's important for everybody involved except the probation companies.
You think it's important for us to get rid of them?
Yeah.
Me personally, yes, sir.
Okay.
And we, you know, we can encourage people to mail it in, of course, there's some people who are gonna insist on coming to that window. I bet you're gonna see a pattern develop, you're gonna see people coming on the first of the month, third of the month, and on Friday, and on the day before court.
All right, if we take it over ourselves, do we still charge a setup fee, and do we still charge, if their fine's $500, is that all?
That's it.
Is that all they're gonna pay?
That's it.
And
We
then
can't-
whatever amount of time the judge gives them to pay them?
That is it. Ken and I have
Okay.
been exploring and looking at ways, you know, not $40 a month, but even if it's $5 a month, we can, okay, if you're gonna make payments, then since there's this extra work, is there this even nominal fee that we can tack on to help offset that cost? We haven't been able to find any way to do that.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to find a way to do
Okay.
that. So the fine and costs are what the fine costs are.
But we're still getting more money because JCS is not getting that
We're getting
part of it, so
faster.
we're getting, we're
Getting
getting,
faster.
It'll be coming to us rather than them, obviously.
That's right.
And for the record, I'd just like to say, neither one of us have used the word
It's just
easy or perfect or mistake-free.
Right.
But, you know, we'll transition it as best as we can. There's good staff in the court, and, you know, I've been for it almost ever since I've been here.
And it's like, there ain't never gonna be an easy time to do it.
No. But the longer we let it go, the more risk we're taking,
I
the
don't
bigger,
know.
the
I'm
bigger
not-
risk we're taking, I think.
I'm not-
That's my.
Yeah, I think you're right. I doubt there's any way to compare these numbers, but because the volume in the court was so much higher 10 years ago when we started with the first private probation company. But I bet that there are percentage-wise a greater number of open cases now as compared to how many cases we've handled over the last couple of years than there was 10 years ago, because of the fact that these payments are getting stretched out so much longer.
Yeah.
The cases are having to stay open longer. And so what I think you're gonna find is eventually, instead of having 5,400 cases open, eventually it's gonna start dwindling. It's gonna start coming down because people will get their cases closed soon.
Yeah, I hear you.
Let's do that.
Well, let's put it on the agenda for tomorrow night. And, I guess you put on the agenda, you know, action necessary to
If their fine is $500.
sever ties or however you
Then
want.
the judge
with
tells them,
JCS
you pay
and,
so much.
terminate
a
the
month.
contract.
Yeah, terminate that contract.
He sets the amount.
And
That's
we'll,
what I have envisioned.
we'll go from
Based on
there.
the ability.
I think we need to. I think we're gonna, this just may be the year that it comes back to bite us, so.
2
Okay.
years is all, I mean, will
2
it,
years
will
is
it,
the max.
so will he try to get that amount in there in the 2-year window?
Yes, that's the goal. Now,
We don't.
again, like this
Yeah,
one, it's got
and if
6
they-
there you go.
Does he have to put them on probation, or can he just go back to his
Thank y'all.
Yes, sir.
You know, he can do it either way.
Yeah. You said, fella?
Just,
Where probation is warranted and it can be done in that 2-year period and the rest of the time just do partial pays.
payments are fine. I would be shocked if, whether he does probation or not, I would be shocked if he doesn't do some sort of suspended sentence if there is not to be full payment, you know, right in. And it, even if it's unsupervised probation, it would kind of just grease the skids later on down the line, if the person didn't know what they were supposed to do.
Rather than if we're limited to the 2 years.
We're limited to the 2 years no matter what we do. It doesn't matter what you call it, doesn't matter how you go about it, still 2 years is the max. After that, it becomes a civil matter. City could send it to win and go
There you
after
go.
it in small claims court, big court's done. No matter how you go about it, 2 years is,
They still owe the money, but you can't make them pay.
you can't put them in jail for it, you can't revoke probation, you can't execute a sentence. All you can do is sue them in civil court
Well, thank you for willing to do it.
Thank you.
After 2 years.
after 2 years.
Before 2 years, you have.
Before 2 years, then all options are available.
Say, please.
And talking low makes it just as well on that microphone as hollering does.
With me?
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
It does. You ever listen to it?
Thank you, gentlemen. Y'all have a good evening.
All right.
Some kind of spray,
I was here.
spray that spot.
I don't need to remove it.
I know.
Tommy Culver's president
I'm doing good. How are
of Little League here in Sylacauga. I don't believe there's any introduction needed here. Shannon, you know Tommy? Okay. Tommy's here tonight. Back in 2004, Little League went through drew up a contract in
2007.
2007, I'm sorry, 2007. Drew up a 10-year contract. And Tommy is coming to us tonight to talk to us about the contract. And I'll kind of let him take it from here.
Yeah, basically, it was just, it's a simple contract, it's a 2-page contract, and it basically just says that the city grants us the permission to use the fields, do all the upkeep on the fields, all the maintenance, we maintain the buildings, the facilities and things like that. And the city, of course, pays the utilities, the water and the electricity. We do everything else over there. And there's 3 years left on this contract, but one of the reasons I wanted to go ahead and be a little proactive is because some money has been spent over there in the last couple of years, but we really need to spend a lot more. We've got some covers over the bleachers that need to be addressed and some roof issues and things like that. So, you know, it's gonna be a sizable amount of money once we're done. And it's a little difficult to go in there and do it with only 3 years left. I think the comfort factor would be better if we had 8 to 10 more years where we invested money over there. Then we know we got a little security there. And that basically is it. And next year's gonna be my youngest son's last year, so I want to really address this and have this in place when I'm gone, so to speak.
Yeah, I hear you.
So, I mean, that basically is it. I hope it's, painless, but, I mean, that's why I wanna try to do this. I just wanna try to go to get it
So,
extended.
Tommy, just to be clear, you want no changes in this current contract?
You know, the contract is simple but yet effective. I don't really see why.
Okay, alright. So, what are you asking for 8 years, 10 years? I mean, what would you prefer, I guess?
Well, if we do a 5-year, that would give us a total of 8.
Okay, so a 5-year extension?
Yeah, give us a total of 8, and then
Okay.
at that point, see.
And I think before, and I don't mean to interrupt you, Tommy, but I think when we did this contract, they actually asked for 15 years, so they could extend the time and do some things that need to be doing now. And Tommy, we've looked at some things over there that's gonna have to be addressed, like poles that are going bad, and
Yeah,
that's gonna have to be
We
addressed.
actually replaced one this year.
That's, things like that, I would think they would need know that this time is extended out far enough for them to get that done, so.
I mean, that would be a minimum, if, you know, 10 would be nice, but I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah, that one pole cost us $2,500, and there's gonna be a couple more that's coming in the near
Yeah,
future for the
there's-
little rookie field, so.
There's some more right behind it, so, you know, these guys are doing a great job over there, and, we looked at that, and they handled that, and it could've got to be a big problem if it was not addressed,
Sure.
so.
Now, is this the utility pole?
It's
Light
like
pole.
light
Oh,
poles.
light pole, not the
Yeah.
utility.
No, light bulb, field lights.
Where does, where do the girls fit into this?
This has nothing to do with the girls, this is basically extending the agreement.
I
And
understand
moving
that, but
forward.
when the agreement took place in 2007, you were talking about 3 fields, and now the girls
Yes.
have exclusive use of the top field.
No,
They don't?
no,
Okay.
no, we still have the right to use that field at any time.
The Little League does.
Lily, mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, basically what we done, we sat down, the two boards sat down 2 years ago when softball started talking about wanting to leave the complex and come over here, where they would have more say or more control on their scheduling and things like that. They were not subjected to.
Right, I understand. I just wanna
Okay.
make sure we don't throw anybody.
We're not throwing anybody.
No babies out with the
No,
bathwater.
we're not throwing anybody out. This agreement right here is for the entire complex, for all 3 fields. And the agreement for the girls to come over and play on that top field is an agreement strictly between, or simply between the 2 groups.
Okay.
It's
I
nothing
just
in
wanna
this
make sure.
contract.
I'm just trying to
You-
protect everybody's interest, right?
And so are we. I mean, so are we. But I didn't wanna come up here to try to throw anybody. And, you know,
Right, I just wanna make sure.
the girls,
Make sure
you know, I don't know
everything's
what the
good.
girls are going to do. I don't know if the girls are gonna continue to play Little League next year, or if they opt to do something else. If they opt to do something else, then I think the way the girls playing on that field will need to be handled exactly the way it was when the girls came over. 2 groups sit down, work it out like it should be.
Thanks, thank you.
Yeah.
Fine.
I mean, but what I'm saying, it really, that's an internal agreement.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with this, is what I'm saying.
Okay, that's fine.
I wanna protect it all.
I just wanted to clarify that, make
Yeah,
sure
that's
we
fine.
were talking about 3.
That's the agreement. Along with the minutes.
Any more?
Part of the things I've been
Yeah.
working on since we started is reviewing contracts and ordinances, updating them. Maybe ending them and starting over, whatever it takes to update them with agreement on whoever the contracts are with. And, you know, I've talked to both boards, all the people involved, parents, just to see how they like what's going on, board members to see how they like what's going on. I hear what you say, and I can sympathize with you, and I can agree with you, but looking at this contract, there's some things that aren't in here that need to be. Based on some of the proposals, one of which I gave to you, it outlines some things, there's more language in here, there's more things that are outlined. I don't wanna extend this. I wanna go back to where we are currently at, which is, look at this one, compare it to this one, make it work for what you guys wanna do. Just like I said before, take this draft, mark it up the way you want it to read 3 months ago, and tell us what you want out of this. You know, you got this to go by, and let's go from a new contract, which is update, because there's a lot of things that are happening in the world of sports and in kids since 2007. And now if we're talking about going forward to 10 more years, 2024, based on this, there's a lot of things that could change 300%. So I wanna go back, I wanna throw this out. If we can agree to update the current contract to something that you're comfortable with, what you and the softball girls do is internal, that's between y'all. Y'all work that out. My girl plays ball, I want her to play somewhere with somebody.
Sure.
That's all I care about.
Hey, we don't do what we do because we hate kids.
Right, I know. So y'all work out those things, but there's some things in here that address things that this one just doesn't. And as time goes by, there's more things to talk about, there's more things that can be done. I think insurance is described, is mandated in here where it's not on this. There's just different things that aren't in this. So if we can go back to where we're
What
at.
are some of those things?
Yeah, the insurance
I'll send you
is,
the-
it's
I'll get
actually
you the
right
draft.
here on the end,
Yeah,
number 8.
maintain liability insurance.
But it doesn't have the dollar amount, I know this one did. But that's what I wanted us to do, was sit down, look at this, compare this to this. And if you want 10 years from now, or 15 years from now, that's not the question. The question is, let's just get an up-to-date contract. You can throw all this in there.
Well, I mean, that would be certainly up to y'all. I mean, I felt like this would be the simplest way to address it. If you don't want to continue with this nor extend this, and y'all say, no, let's sit down, let's renegotiate, then fine. I was trying to go the path of least resistance.
Well, I think that's a bad word. I don't think you'll have resistance. I think it's
Well,
just-
but you understand what I'm
The
saying. Bad
easiest
choice of
way.
words, but you understand the simplest way, in my opinion, but y'all can decide and let me know if we want to go further with.
Well, I guess, Joe, my question is, I mean, what are some things? What are some things in here
Do you wanna look at this?
that you,
And bring us up later?
I mean, I haven't seen that.
Then I would look at this.
I think y'all did get copies of it, Wynn prepared it, and I think copies were distributed.
I didn't see one.
I
When
think
did
so.
he-
Wynn distributed it Wynn put it together over a year ago.
And that was the last draft we got back from him, which I handed to the girls' president and to you, and told both of you same thing. Mark this up the way you want it to read, and let's see if we can accommodate.
But the girls' president,
But
I
they
don't see
still-
where
they-
that, I don't
they
see where that
fall-
would,
They still fall
come into
under
play.
Little League,
When,
and they play Little League, so if they have issues with whatever this reads, they need to go through the Little League board to express, they
But-
need to have some input to them.
when it was
Um,
brought to y'all,
mhm.
Joe had conversation with Tommy, I think, and said there had to be 2 separate contracts because they had separated the boards.
That's
This
different.
was-
There was a little
What
bit,
was that?
I know, but there was some wrong information handed off, and all that wasn't quite accurate, which was why we put that on hold. And I was waiting to hear back from him on
But
what
that's
they were
when,
looking
but
for.
everybody had copies of that at that point in
Okay.
time, is what I'm
Yeah,
saying. It
yeah.
was distributed
I hear
then,
you.
and at the work session, Joe came back with either the girls had to be written in separately so that somebody else could sign the contract as well, or there had to be 2 separate contracts.
I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you, that's one of the things that I'm really trying to eliminate as well. I don't want to see a property line drawn between the middle of that park over there. I don't think it's fair to the children, I don't think it's fair to the parents and everybody involved to draw a line in something there for kids and this is mine, that's yours, don't come here, don't go down there.
Yeah.
That's not why we've done this. When we've done this, we have kept up that facility for years. Little League softball decided to play at the complex. That was their choice, their decision at the time. When they came to us 2 years ago, that board come to us 2 years ago and sat down and talked about what they would like to do. We sat down with them and we made compromises. We moved the younger boys from the top field, consolidated everything down on the bottom 2 fields. We tightened everything up. We played 2 ball games every night during the week and 6 ball games on Saturday to accommodate and to give the girls, I wanted them back over there. I wanted the Little League girls back over there with the boys. I thought it was a great thing and I still do. But now it's finally back over there. I don't wanna draw a dividing line through it. Because we'll have the same mess in 5 years or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why all that whole conversation was tabled when it was brought up the first time. So we didn't have to, deal with it as it was proposed at that particular moment. So what the Little League board, I asked the Little League girls board to look at was to see if this meets what they want out of a contract, because they go back to them and then they come to us after he marks it up and tells us what he wants, and then we look at it and say, yeah, this'll work, or we can get this in there, or no, we don't agree with that. But this is antiquated, it needs to be changed.
But I guess
What needs to be changed about it?
Well, have you read this one?
Yeah.
Well, compare the two. What can you pull out of this that needs to go in there?
nothing, in my mind. The thing is, what that does is complicate and cloud the issue by bringing the girls into it, and right now, the girls have a working relationship with the boys league, and that's just fine. I don't see that that's a.
And as long as they stay
This
under
doesn't
the
say-
Little League,
Well,
girls'
what you
Little
gave
League
us before
softball,
was,
everything's
you
gonna
were
be
talking
fine.
about having to pull it
That's
back
the way,
out.
That's
that's
not
the way the field, Robert's field.
What's in there that
ended up
needs to go
going
in
to
here
Little
then?
League
What
was
in here
because-
needs to come out?
Well, I
All
can't
It was
three,
read
all-
right now,
all
'cause I
three
don't have time
fields
to
are
get my
Little,
copy out of
Sylacauga
the
Little
old
League.
issue.
But girls
Figure it out on your
softball
own.
was
Well,
part of
that's-
Little
But this
League.
doesn't pull the
That's
girls
what
out.
I'm
saying.
saying.
What I'm
And
trying to
they
avoid.
technically, they still are.
But at
Well,
the
but
time
look
all
at it
this was
waiting.
done, there was no separate charter, there was no separate board, it was
No.
all one
By the
organization.
time this was done, yes, yes, there was. Yeah, the Sylacauga Little League softball had a board and their own charter,
Really?
yes, but they were playing over the softball complex.
So when,
Little League softball was incorporated in 1990.
so when this was done, when Claude and Teresa and, Carol and all came and asked for the property, they were separately incorporated? Then?
This is when they asked for the property over to over
Yeah,
to,
that's when they asked for the swimming pool property where
no,
Robert's
when it
Field
was
is.
swimming pool property, they were together. Little League softball left and had its own charter, was incorporated in 90, I don't know what they were.
92 and 93.
Yeah.
Carol
Well,
came and asked for the property when we were dismantling the
I'm
pool,
almost
and
positive it was 90, but I could be wrong on my dates, but they do,
Claude and Teresa
they
came back
do
and got
have,
it
in
from the
fact, have
council.
their own charter.
Well, you know, I'm kind of in agreement
still all
with,
in the little umbrella.
excuse me, with Tom on this.
But now
Did-
Tom's not right, because this does not separate boys or girls at all, this
No,
only,
that was
this,
what we were told.
this
That's
on-
not
I
what I'm
know,
talking about.
I know, but I'm asking
talking
you to
about
read
sitting
this.
and looking and reading and waiting and putting things off.
I understand that, but I'm not asking you to go back to that conversation, I'm asking you to look at this only identifies
Take me about
Sylacauga
60
Little League.
seconds.
That's all, it doesn't say
Read.
girls or boys or
Well,
separate.
neither does this one.
This only said, well, do what you want, I don't care.
No,
I don't
care,
know that,
but-
is that been changed since you give me a copy of it?
We discussed some different things, but that only identifies Sylacauga Little League.
Well, as
No,
long as the
to my
girls are
knowledge,
Sylacauga
nothing's
Little
been
League,
changed
it
to
don't
the
matter.
time.
I
But
know,
It's
so
the
does
same
this
one that
new
we
one,
put
so does the
together.
old
As
one.
long as they play under Sylacauga Little League, it don't matter, does it?
That one,
No,
the
we're not talking
contract
about
that Wynn
girls,
put
we're just
together,
talking about updating the contract that we have with them.
That's right.
the contract that Wynn put together had, the updated insurance requirements that all of the boards had. It had
$1,000,000.
something about the overage on the utilities.
It outlined that,
Had
yeah.
something about indemnifying the city. That's pretty much all the things that I remember, so
Well,
they
see,
keep the
that was-
property in
and-
good repair and all
And
that.
of course, we do all that, we keep it in good repair and keep it up. One of the things that I
don't
mean,
think it was
and this is
anything
one of the
either.
things that I went to Joe with, as far as I forgot the proper wording, I read it, but it said something to the extent, you're talking about the overage on utilities, and it basically, I think the word negligent was worded in there. Who is going to deem who negligent? If we're not there and a water line bursts, and you know, we've had that happen
Yeah,
before.
lots of times.
Due to freezing or just a pipe on the ground, and, we're not there, you know, we're off season or whatever. Now during the regular season, we're there, but I mean, I think, I mean, if we get hit with a $2,000 water bill, who's gonna deem us negligent?
Yeah, I hear
You,
you.
you see what I mean? I had a phone call Monday morning from a guy that went riding by, someone had gone over there, obviously was playing on one of the fields and turned the lights on and left them on. I mean, we didn't know that had happened. Are we negligent for that? I mean, you see what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
it really does, and I understand that Joe wants to change some things and upgrade some things, but I agree with Tom, I think it does complicate things a little bit. Can I see that second, Tom, if you,
Yeah.
let me see.
I think the only things in there that I would put in this are the $1 million insurance policy, cause we discussed that, and that's mandate, that's across every, you know, everybody we have has to have a $1 million policy, that wasn't outlined in this. And it didn't go into detail, some of the leaks and, you know, damage and those kind of things, so we added that. It really doesn't affect the usage of the field or any operation of it, it just covers us and covers the league itself.
Well,
Identifies who's responsible for what and for what reason.
and look, you know, sometimes I overthink things, but in the position that I'm in, Joe, I have to kind of think outside the box and try to visualize what possibly could come from a situation. And it says right here for occupancy as Little League baseball and or girls softball fields. It doesn't say girls Little League softball fields.
But now
That's
3
a,
months.
that's a loophole.
But now 3 months ago, if you marked it up where I asked you to, you could have put in there girls Little League
I
and handed it
understand
back
that.
to
I
us.
understand that.
So that was for your review.
I understand
And
that.
did I not ask you to mark that up how you wanted
I
it to read?
but I also told you that I would get back with you once season was over.
Yeah.
And
I know.
did you not come to the work session here before you and I got together to do any of this and bring this to this council right here?
When we were discussing
And say, hey, look, we're ready to go with this, or whatever. Joe, you and I we never even discussed any of it in detail.
well, that's when we were discussing the girls' part. Then I realized that the girls' part of it was given
Okay.
erroneously. So
So-
we tabled that whole conversation.
Okay, yes, you did ask me to review it, and I asked you to give me until after season was over, tournament season over, but I also asked you to hold on to it and not go any further with it.
Yeah. We were from,
Was that
we
was
were
right,
from the
right?
baseball point, and we were trying to accommodate the girls, then we realized that just wasn't gonna work, cause that was creating a dividing line you were trying to avoid, so we stopped all that.
Yeah, no, I don't want that dividing line there.
No, and it shouldn't be. I have a girl that plays too, she needs to be in
Sure,
Little League.
absolutely.
But, no, we stopped all that when I realized where that was going.
Does the Sylacauga Boys Little League Board have jurisdiction over the softball, girls softball?
Not over their board. The only thing
Their
that
operation.
we retain the right for the use of that field. And
That's
the agreement was, and it's never,
Sylacauga Boys.
it's never been done, and the agreement was, if the boys get into a rain-out situation and that field is vacant, we're gonna go up there. And the same, and Joe will attest, the girls have come down and used our fields more than, we've never played on that top field since the girls have been there. But to help with makeups, to help with senior league, I've allowed Chris in softball to come down here and play on the major league field more than one occasion. So, yeah, we've got a good internal working relationship.
If you got a written agreement with them on that top field,
To some degree, it's nothing as formal as this. It's just where
but
we,
it says basically that they can play up there, as long as they're under the Sylacauga Little League, they can play on that field.
Mhm.
But that's not in here, that's just their agreement.
Yeah,
Well,
and that's
but
how it should
that's-
be.
And when
Yeah.
it was brought to us, they were
Should
trying
be
to
separate.
they were trying to stay Little League, but do something different to assure they had a field forever, should they field a girls' team. And as it turns out, at the end of that conversation, it needs to come back to where it's at now, in a contract with you guys and a working agreement y'all have with them. If they're there, they're there. If they're not, they're out. They're not, but that's between y'all.
Well, what I want to try to avoid is a split of Sylacauga softball.
Right.
Because we've got one split here in youth sports that doesn't need to be here, and I certainly don't want to see another. Okay? And I listen to a lot of people and I hear a lot of things from other coaches and board members and things of that nature, and I just don't know if and how long some of the people associated with softball will want to stay Little League.
I hear you.
Well, and I've heard that argument, and I think they're just looking out for the kids and opportunities.
sure.
I'm sure it's nothing against Little League.
Well,
Do you-
no, I'm not saying that it is. No, I don't take me wrong there.
Do you see a problem in continuing to work with them no matter what their name is?
No, I don't.
As long as they're Little League.
But now they have
Well,
Little
no.
League fields.
Whatever their name is. That's what I was-
You're asking if they leave Little League and they go to Dixie Girls or
Whatever.
Anything other than Little League.
Yes, I mean, I would not have a problem at all sitting down and talking to them just like we did before. Am I going to make you or anybody in here or them a promise that it'll pass? Absolutely not.
When you answer to a board, they can oust you.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I can't speak for them.
Well, I understand.
I would like to think
That's
that.
why I asked the question exactly the way that I did.
Would I call a meeting to discuss it and sit down with that softball board? Absolutely, and I've been asked that question.
And do everything within your power, as you said, to keep another split from happening.
Absolutely, I mean, like I say,
Let's put it this way, I spent a lot of time over there in my lifetime, and I've seen what you've done as, in your position, and I'm quite impressed.
well,
I
I
can trust
do it
that.
because I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed,
I know.
being there with the kids. I wouldn't wanna do anything to hurt a kid, but there again, I'm one of 15. I'm, you know,
Well, I would like to think that,
You're a
you
leader.
know, that's a Little League field. It belongs part of Little League, according to the contract.
That's-
And y'all can either work out an agreement or not, based on who their sanctioned body is and if they play there or not. You've given up that field, they put a lot of money into it.
They have.
But you've given up that field for them to use, and I'd like to think that everybody could, put the kids' genuine interest, you know,
First.
up front and do whatever needs to be done to make sure they're accommodated. But there's some, you know, this calling for an annual, and you can, and that's what I wanted you to do, look at, change it from annual to whatever the time frame is, 5 years or 10 years. I just gave that to you to look at, so you can mark it up the way you wanted to, and still, I would still say do that. But, you know, there's just some things that we talked about with the wind that need to be in this one that aren't.
And I still don't, I still haven't, you still haven't told me what, I mean,
But
what's
I
in
can't
that?
do, well, if you wanna give me 5 minutes to read this, I can go over
I
it real quick.
just looked through it, and the one thing that jumps out at me is a specific amount on the liability insurance, because that's something that we do need.
But we require that
Right.
of all the boards, and this says, the association shall during the term of this agreement maintain liability insurance on the premises with Sylacauga, with the city named in said coverage along with the association.
It
I
doesn't
understand,
really-
I'm saying it puts a specific amount on it that would be required. I don't have a problem with adding the specific amount in there.
Okay. I think,
But
I
that's-
thought set amount
I
covered.
read through that a few moments ago, and that's, you know, there's some other things that might be, but this is simple to the point, and if,
And it works,
It
I
works,
think, and it
yeah.
has worked.
That's me, as long as he can live with that, and the girls, softball,
clean one of the
working
spokes and
together.
move on.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Don't have to reinvent a wheel.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's what he's telling me.
as far as adding that $1 million, that number to this, I don't have a problem with that.
I think you probably have that anyway, it's just not outlined.
It's just not in,
That's
it's
right.
just not on paper.
And we can't think for who's gonna be your board 10 years from now, or 8 years from now,
We
under the
don't know
current
who's gonna
contract.
be on it
You
come
gotta have
September.
that, same thing we dealt with the airport and all that stuff in the future.
Amen.
You gotta think of the
Literally.
future.
But I think set amount was probably put in there
Now,
in case it were to change.
let me just throw something
From
out
a million
here.
to a million and a half.
This
Just
was
got an
for,
attorney figure
for,
this
Yeah.
up.
for 10 years, and it's down to 3 to go. I have seen some things in the past, mostly coaches' contracts, that kind of thing, that had a specific time frame, shorter than this, but had an automatic 1-year extension
Fuel day.
unless somebody came back and pulled it back. Would that give you the kind of time frame for the capital? Does that make some sense?
Well, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, basically, we would be looking at 4 years right now instead of 3.
No, you'd be looking at 5 years, period. And next year, you'd be looking at 5 years. And the year after that, you'd be looking at 5 years. Unless this panel came back and you or this panel came and
So
stopped
it's a
that extra
minimum of
year.
5-year blanket and it rolls every year, basically, is what you're saying.
Basically, yeah. It extends that one more year every year unless one or both of the parties one of the other parties comes and wants to do something, kinda like what you did here. That gives you
And
some
then there's not a reason
leeway,
to come
and
back,
it also
there's
gives
not an
us.
ending date, really.
Right, and there also gives us an annual look-see from both sides. Just trying to give you some security without, as Joe said, who knows what's gonna be happening 10 years from now. We may
And
not
it's
have
like we
cars
talked
anymore.
about before though, Tom, they kinda need some security in the fact that they're gonna make some capital investments
Absolutely,
over there.
absolutely, that's
And
what I'm
they
trying
may need longer
to do.
than 5 years, I mean, they need to know more than
That's
5
why I
years
was
down the
asking.
road.
That's why I was
Yeah.
asking.
And we want nothing more than to invest in the kids, and
Oh,
that's not the
that's right.
question.
That's why I asked if that would work.
There's just some legalese that needs to be put into this thing by an actual lawyer instead of whoever did this one. It works.
A lawyer did this one.
I think it was actually Judge Fielding.
Yeah.
If you did it for 8 years, that'd put it back to the original 10
Then
years.
you have to hire a lawyer to read it back to you in English.
That's right.
Yeah, they've done it for 7, that would put it back to the original
Back to
10.
10, yeah.
Okay, so Joe, you said the $1 million thing, the putting the number in the insurance clause.
There's what I think should be in it. And I'm looking at it from a city standpoint, not a kid, my kid, your board, their board, or anybody else.
Well, the dates in there, April 1 to September 30th.
That was to finish this contract, cause at the time that was done in April 1st, and it ended September 30th. That's why in there, again, that's why I told you, mark it up how you want it to be. If you want a 10-year term, then write a 10-year term in there and let's agree on it. I think that one actually says annually. Just change that to,
That's actually
Something
one
else.
of the contracts that Sam had Wynn put together while he was still mayor. He had all of those. The auditors pointed out that we were making agreements with agencies in town without a contract. We were making payments on their behalf or two. And so Sam had Wynn put together some contracts, and that's actually where that one first started from. That one and 2 or 3 others were in stack.
Yeah, I don't,
if you put that in this, it doesn't change the functionality of the contract. It just gives it an outline and legal description or obligation.
You talking about putting numbers 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, and 12 in 13 and 14 in this?
I just don't see, personally, I just don't see where this contract is broken.
I didn't say anything about broken.
Well, then why are we fixing it?
To
Amen.
update, to
Okay.
put the things in there that need to be in there.
Why does it
Going
need to
back
be
to
in
what
there?
auditor said to start with.
No, the auditor said that
That's
we
not
didn't
what they
have
said.
an agreement in place. We
We
didn't
had-
have any
we got that
kind of
now.
agreement.
That was in 2007.
But
Wynn
we're also
had-
trying to make things consistent, like
Yeah.
naming the $1 million policy.
Okay, that's fine. We can put that in there. But as far as making this a 14-page document, I just don't, I don't see it. I don't see why. I don't
Cause
see
you're
it.
talking about a board that is basically volunteers working awfully hard for a long period of time. And trying to complicate matters, it could take them days just to have meetings enough to go through that and understand what all of it's saying. This is pretty simple and easy to the point, and it doesn't negate any of those type things. I mean, that I should do absolutely nothing illegal in the place, well, duh. That pretty much goes without saying. I mean, that's one of the things in here is that lessee at all times shall fully and promptly comply with all laws, ordinances, orders, and regulations of any lawful authority having jurisdiction of said premises. Well,
Which includes the nuisance and abatement, which, not that they wouldn't cut the grass or do anything, but there's nothing outlined in this other one like that one is. There's a litter ordinance, there's all kinds of things that covers that this doesn't. And I don't care if it's 1 page or 32 pages, as long as the
I'd
city
say
is,
something
the
like
city is
60
covered.
years of experience. Isn't it 60, or is it 61 or 62?
It's just 60, we're 60.
And I've coached, and I
We're
have
actually
them,
a
and
little over that now, but.
I put a lot of time onto that field, and I thought I was gonna be on the board until last minute, they got somebody else, and I didn't have to do it, which was fine with me. So, and I'm not opposed to going on either one of the boards now, I wanna help Little League and do the best for them, but in our job inside this room, I have to look out for the city. And this names a lot of things that one doesn't, and that's my only concern, it has nothing to do with ball, big or small, boys or girls, it's just looking out for the city. If you don't agree, then that's fine.
No, I'm not saying it's not right to look out for the city. I just think that that's going.
But that's what I'm
more
saying,
than
if
a
you
little
don't
over.
agree, then that's fine, that's why there's 5 of us in here instead of just one. I did my part and threw it on the table, and we'll move on, just like we have a couple other things we've done right and or fouled up, either way, however you wanna look at it.
Well, I move, I mean, you know, I move that we extend this thing to 2024. And that's my recommendation, that we extend this thing to 2024. Give them the guarantee that this contract's gonna be around. I mean, obviously, in this contract, with a year's notice, we can terminate this contract at any time with a year's notice. So, but I do think, and Tom, to kind of echo your point, I do think that we need to give these folks who are spending their time, their money, so that these kids can have somewhere to play and have somewhere nice to play. I think that we owe it to them to give them the assurance that this contract's gonna be in place for 10 years, and that we're not, you know, that 3 years from now, we're not gonna come and, you know, that's right. As far as the document itself goes, you know, I think we leave it alone. I'm okay with putting that $1 million mark in number 8, that $1 million amount in number 8. I mean, if that's what we need to do, I don't have a problem with that, but,
Well, we all got copies of the other, and we're asked to mark it up and bring it back, and this is what I came back with. I'm sorry, but that's good.
okay.
Well, now you also have to remember that this isn't something I put together and said, hey, let's add these in here. This is something that the city attorney recommended, who we consult with all the time, and ask him what he thinks we should do, and this is what came back. I didn't ask for this to be put on my plate. He sent this back to me and said, I think you guys need to include this in your next contract. That's not my idea. I happen to agree with him on most of those things. But, I mean, we value his judgment, his opinion, except for tonight apparently. If you haven't read it, don't put this thing on there for Wednesday, tomorrow night. Read it, look at it. Ask him about it. Don't listen to me, listen to him.
Alright.
I mean, there's no rush. We can do it September 3rd. It's not gonna matter to them. We give them 10 more years anyway. That's the main concern, the security of the Little League.
Mhm.
So 2 more weeks, I don't guess, unless your board meeting makes a difference.
It doesn't.
So it doesn't matter to them.
It has no effect on this.
And the people you're talking about is me. I put a lot of money and time into that, so, you know, I'm him, I'm the girls, you know, I'm these people you're talking about. So, you know, I'm not one side or the other. In here tonight, I'm just looking out for the city, based on Wynn's recommendation.
Well, it's personal to you, Joe, more than it is to anybody else in this room, because you got a child over there.
Well, I know she's gonna play somewhere.
I mean,
So,
it
I'm not
is,
losing
and there's no getting around that.
I'm not losing anything in this.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, it's more personal to you than anybody else in here. And it would be if I had a child over there, I'd be in the same boat.
This isn't personal, because I'm not looking at her, I'm looking at the city. The city, she can play baseball if they didn't have, I guess, can't she?
Mhm.
She can play baseball if they didn't have Little League, so she's able to do something. This isn't even personal at all, this is professional. I'm just taking Wynn's advice and looking at it for the city standpoint. That's all.
Okay. But Wynn was asked to get a contract together. He didn't just come to us and say, hey, this is what y'all need to do.
No, that actually was brought to me, to say, hey, we need to update some of our older contracts.
By Wynn.
That one was mentioned when I said, which ones?
That
we
was
need to
brought
work
to you
on?"
by Wynn.
Brought up in conversation, so I pulled it out and said, well, take a look at this one too. There's a lot, and y'all know, part of my goal was to update contracts and ordinances that haven't been done in a long time, or if nothing more than look at them. You know, I've looked at several with Wynn, he said, these are fine like they are. You know, we're
Did he
just,
say that's not fine?
he handed this back.
Now, did he even know that existed? Or was he just coming up with something No,
That's the feeling
This one came
that's
from,
why I said that.
This one was started by Sam, right? So he was already aware of this one from,
no, I'm not talking about that one.
Talking
I'm
about this
talking
one.
about the one that's actually in place right now in Forest.
When Joe got this stack, just like y'all got that stack, it was
I
more
got
than,
it.
it was more than just the Little League.
Mm-hmm.
It was a stack of contracts that Wynn had
Sure,
put
I
together
get
for
that
Sam.
now.
Okay, when Joe brought that to you all got copies of that entire package.
Right.
Yes.
None of us realized that that one was in place. We had all forgotten that. I had.
Right,
Because Joe
which is
came back and
precisely
says,
my,
he
which
had
is
had a
precisely
conversation.
my point, is that we're being chastised for not following his, direction when.
But Wynn looked at the other one, what I'm saying is when Wynn didn't even realize that one was in place.
Exactly my point.
So he came up with that without knowing this.
He didn't realize that one had been done. Sam had asked him to do these. There was more than this one did.
Yeah, there was.
Y'all,
Yeah, we got
it was all those other
yeah,
agencies.
everything
that take
everything
care of
in this is outlined in here. This just adds a little more description and has some other things in here, which I think.
I don't think Joe realized that that was in place until
I
he
think-
talked with you, and I looked it up in the minutes then. Cause I never seen a
I'm
signature
fairly
on it.
intelligent, and I've read that twice here tonight, and I find an awful lot of that verbose and confusing, whereas that's simple, straight to the point. And there's nothing the matter with simple and straight to the point, along with a 60-year history of taking care of all those little details that we need to insist on over there. This is not an organization that needs to get fixed as far as taking care of the city property.
That wasn't the plan, that wasn't the goal, that was the question. The question was, do we need to update the Little League contract? If so, what would it look like? Then here's the result.
Okay, and you keep repeating that stuff needs to be in here to protect the city. I think that does just fine, and history says so.
Okay, that's your opinion and this is mine, but there's 5 of us on here.
Okay, then why do we have to put it off until later?
In case he wants to read or he wants to read, I don't care, I'm just one vote.
Alright, well, let's do this then. Do we wanna put this on the agenda for Tuesday? Yes.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
3.
Put it on.
Put it on the agenda and we'll see what happens on Tuesday, tomorrow night.
You're talking about the other one.
The current, the contract as it currently stands, a
Well-
10-year extension from,
Adding the $1 million amount on number 8.
adding the number, the dollar amount on number 8.
Cause that makes us consistent with everything we do with everyone else.
Yeah, okay,
That needs to be.
I'll go with that, that's fine. But this will extend this contract to 2024.
November 20.
Yeah, November 2024.
Is that sufficient?
Okay. Alright, well, good deal.
Thank you all.
Alright, thank you, Tom.
Y'all have a good day.
How you doing, man? I'm good. Let's see.
Okay, guys, we've got Don Smith here from, I think we all know where Don Smith is from, the museum.
Yeah.
They're wanting to have a barbecue and an arts festival and everything over there. Don, I will let you know,
Okay.
just to get started. Chief Carden was here at the beginning of our meeting.
Okay,
In the letter that we got from Donna,
yes,
she requested that 8th Street be closed from Norton to Broadway.
yes.
He said no problem.
Oh, really? Okay,
So-
well, marvelous, thank
So
you.
you can check that off your list.
Okay.
We got that taken care of for you.
Okay.
So what are you here tonight to discuss, Don?
Well, there's some papers there that we've done. I wanted to tell you that we would like to have this, cook-off and try to raise some more money for the, museum. And, we also have applied for a grant that they will pay us quarterly. It's a $10,000 grant that they'll pay us quarterly. And we won't know that until October, late October. We'll know whether or not we qualified for the grant. And of course, I wanted to remind you guys about the bathroom downstairs, that we were gonna take the ladies' restroom to make a handicap accessible. And we wanted to kind of see if we could move a little closer on that.
Well, we were told that we couldn't do do
Well,
that?
we gotta get an architect to look at it and recommend what we need to do, I think.
Because our code department said that we couldn't do one without doing the other, right? Wasn't that their thoughts?
Well, not necessarily, we can probably do, we just gotta get an architect to look
Okay.
at it,
Alright.
so.
Do we have
And
one staff?
no, we don't, that's what I was gonna say.
You are, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
You gotta take measurement pencil.
What was that? What'd you say, Peter?
I said, do we have one on staff?
But yeah, you know,
And there was one that I think gave a price, but one of them said that we needed to talk to somebody else.
Yeah.
Maybe get a little better price.
Okay.
So, I'll move forward with that. If y'all give me permission, I'll go ahead and tell them to get one,
yeah,
to get a price from this other one and maybe go ahead and move on that.
Okay.
if y'all want to.
We'd also like to, on this, barbecue cook-off, I think there's, a permit or something.
there is, special events.
Special event things.
Mm-hmm.
We would like to be exempt from that if it's any way possible for the fundraiser. We're trying to raise as much money as we can,
Yeah.
and I don't even know what the permit would be, but I was asked if I could ask not to be exempt from that, if that's possible.
Actually, what we put down here is that you would personally pay it.
Okay. Well,
Are you gonna have any vendors there selling themselves?
they're gonna have a craft show. They are.
Arts and crafts.
Yeah, they're gonna be, yeah. I don't know exactly how that works, cause I'm not part of that committee on the
Yeah, sure.
museum.
Well, this council has been very lenient as far as it pertains to special events permits.
Yes.
And maybe waiving some of those, and that'll be something that we'll have to do in a formal meeting, but
Okay.
I think I'll speak for all of us when I say we'll definitely entertain it.
Okay, okay.
You know, now, as it pertains to vendors, just know that anybody that's selling anything will have to have a business license.
Okay.
And if they're out of town, city clerk's office can do a single day.
Okay.
And those are some specifics that, you'll have,
And-
the individual
As I
vendor.
remember it, it's $20.
I think it is.
Either 20 or 25.
Yeah, I'm almost
Fine.
positive it's $20. Yeah,
Alright, vendors,
and they can just come see the city clerk or call. I think
Most
they
of the standard vendors know and understand that and have used it before.
right,
If they have a city license, that's not required.
alright, I've got those. Okay, and of course, the restroom, and you guys said that, let's see,
Can you tell me a little bit more? Who'd you apply for the grant through?
Yeah, that's why.
I'm curious.
I've talked to Donna about it.
let me see if I have that. No, this doesn't tell me.
It's the historical commission. They
Oh.
applied for a $10,000 grant from the historical
That's
commission.
exactly right, here it is
Alabama.
right here. Let me see, I may,
I'm assuming it's not our local historical.
this, you know what? I may can give y'all this.
I was
sorry.
just curious.
No, we don't need it. But it's
yeah.
it's $10,000 that'll be paid
$10,000.
$2,000 at a time, 4 times. Once
That's
$2,000
right.
a quarter.
That's right,
Yeah, that's what I said.
and, and we're excited over it, we're excited over it, and hopefully.
But that is something that could be used for, that's something that can be used for repairs
That's right.
to that building.
That's
That
right.
is, the walls, I know we talked about the walls.
Yes.
And, it might be something that, obviously $2,000 is probably not going to be enough money to complete any of those projects. So maybe that's something that,
Yeah,
we
another
go.
$2,500 a quarter
There
to
you
the
go.
budget.
That's
Start being
right.
able to do a little bit more.
That's
of
exactly right.
everything.
So,
Yeah.
that's gonna help out a lot, I do believe. Donna mentioned to me, about the walls, and I think the last conversation we had was, well, the roof's leaking, so we need to get that nailed down.
Right.
No pun intended.
Right.
And,
I think that's gonna be addressed this week, by the way.
okay, good, cause I talked to her
Who's gonna-
last week, and she,
Who's got,
Copy, Jim Hopkins.
okay,
I think
he's addressing the roof now.
Donna called Jim at the end of the week last week, and he's
Yeah.
gonna get back with her this week and run up there and see if they can fix that.
and I think there was some confusion as to who would find, I think there was just a misunderstanding between the council and the museum board. I think they were kinda waiting on us to find a contractor, you know, to go over there since it's our building. And I think we were kinda waiting on them to get a contractor, so it was just kind of just a misunderstanding.
Okay, we'll just all
But-
agree to blame it on Don.
That's
Well,
right.
that's okay, I'll take the blame.
No, but I talked to Donna, we got that straightened out, which
Okay.
is probably why she called the contractor at the end of the week.
Okay.
That's been taken care of.
Okay, so that's good. I can measure that if y'all need me to measure it now.
So he's gonna give us a price to repair the roof.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's what when we were talking about the walls before, that's
gotta-
what we
we gotta fix the
gotta
roof
fix the
before we
roof
do the
before we do the
walls.
walls, I think it's
Or we
pointless.
have to fix the walls again
Twice.
and again.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you know, Don, I think this is great. I think this is gonna go well. There's some buzz around town about this.
I know, I'm amazed. The chili cook-off was good, but they tell me that the barbecue, we have
Yeah.
lots more response.
Yeah,
response.
there is.
Now, are we still gonna have the chili cook-off next spring?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what we wanted to do, was to have it, and the car show was
Yeah.
fabulous.
Now, my only real question on this, they make it seem easy on the Pitmasters TV show, but is 9 to 3 enough time to do a Boston butt?
Well, no.
They start the night before.
Yeah, they'll be there the
Okay,
night
I
before.
was just going by what it said. I wanted to
The
make
actual,
sure.
the festival, I guess you could say, will be from 9 to 3. But
Right.
there'll be people in there on Friday night.
That's right. Okay, now, one more thing that Donna would like for me to ask you guys about. The, you know, the safety ramp that comes in from the museum that's kind of a slope.
You mean Thrill Hill?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
well, we won't.
You're in a wheelchair.
If you turn loose a wheelchair there, buddy,
It's
you're
gone. It does not meet
I know.
ADA code.
Well, we were thinking about possibly,
Six Flags maybe, but.
maybe roping that off for this event, just kind of saying, you know, I'm
That's
just
up to y'all.
I can get Woody to tear it out if y'all want to.
Yeah.
Huh?
Then we don't
I'll
have a
take this.
handicap, then we don't have a handicap.
But if they don't,
We don't have
they don't
one
want it
now.
anyway, that's,
Well,
it's
well,
not a.
aren't you know, I'm actually, I'd be afraid to put somebody especially a heavy person, to try to go down with them.
You might as well push
Oh,
it down the steps.
Are we obligated
I mean,
to have
it's-
that there though? Are we obligated to have that
No,
there?
we put it, we just did it when we built that parking lot. but we-
There
That needs to
is-
be torn out.
There is handicap accessibility from the driveway coming off of Broadway.
See, that's right, let me tell you.
But it's not very convenient,
Ron,
because you can't park there.
the
Well,
deal
there's not
was,
enough parking to, you know.
You pull up, you drop off, then you gotta go park.
that's right,
somewhere.
well, let me tell you, what I would have liked to have seen was you drive off of Broadway, come up, and you could unload a bus. Have that continue on down into the parking lot down there, so the bus could turn around or go out into the street, come back onto Broadway, come back up, pick up children, or anybody else, or the elderly or whatever. Or if you had a handicapped family member, you could come up,
Is
unload them,
that,
go
it's been a
park.
while since I looked, you and I looked at it one time, but it's been a while. Is there enough room there to affect that change?
I think so.
So high school's gonna move over closer to you on that next phase,
That's
I
right,
think.
but see,
They won't be that close.
they won't be that close.
Still have room for that little drive-through there?
Yeah, they're coming all the way basically over to the bottom, you know how it falls
So you're
off?
saying just turn the
They're
sidewalk.
coming over to the
right.
bottom of that hill.
That's
I'd
what
like-
I'd like to.
I'd like
Now,
to
it's
see
gonna
that.
take some dirt, to do that,
I'd like to see that connect Fort Williams to the parking lot.
from,
Broadway, you mean?
Broadway to,
Yeah.
yeah, Broadway to the parking lot.
That-
Fort
that
Williams
would-
be a long trip.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of asphalt.
but that would, in my opinion, would save all of us
Yeah,
all kind of issues there.
but as far, that's not gonna get,
I know
I'm
that's not getting done
I'm not
right.
confident that's gonna get done before Saturday,
No, it's-
October
I'm sure
18th.
that's not.
or 11th. But as far as roping off the ramp, I think that's
Yeah,
your
okay,
call.
Option of the-
Do we need to talk to the city attorney about that?
No, it's not ADA.
So we've already
Okay.
said that we're not gonna designate that a
Auction off
handicap.
asphalt,
Okay.
if we wanna put it on the street,
So-
say less on it.
All right. What else, Don?
Bust it down,
Well,
spread it on your own street.
Well, that is, that's it, Rocky. I just
Okay.
appreciate you guys getting behind us and working and, helping support the museum. Y'all come out. Now, this Thursday night, guys, remember, this is the reception.
Mhm.
Pete Hosey and then the carving group will be there. Be a lot of people there.
But it's also the grand reopening of your archaeology
It
and
is.
genealogy
Thank you for,
galleries.
the gallery that we usually have this in is in gallery, been in gallery 2, now it's gonna be in gallery 1. So, at 6:30 to 8, the public's invited, there's no cost, come in, have finger food, and we'll have things.
Donations are appreciated.
Donations are appreciated, and we want to have you as members, so if you're not members, we'd like to have you, you know, and I appreciate it so much. guys.
Okay, thank you, Don.
All right.
We'll get that special events permit,
Okay.
the exemption,
Okay.
will be on the agenda tomorrow night.
Okay, great.
Okay? All right, hey,
You can carry this with you. If you quit the city, you can carry it with you, you know, a retirement, but it's gone. So Don and I have kind of worked out a deal where we can get them a permanent insurance policy and a group term, you know, and I'm talking on the whole life. Am I okay bringing this up?
Yeah, you're fine.
We kind of package some permanent insurance together with the term. And when I go in, I tell, you know, I know Trish is 35. I say, Trish, you can get for $21.67, you can get $25,000 worth of coverage. And $21.65 is what's gonna cost you for the rest of your days. When you leave the city, you just let us know you're coming off the payroll and you carry this on. That will be your burial plan. And what we'll do is, since Sylacauga is a pretty good sized group, we can get that on a guaranteed issue basis too. And so you see what we're doing here, we're putting them permanent insurance they'll have forever with a big face amount, an extra $50,000 they can get for extra cheap for their kids, for themselves and their spouse and their children. And we're not killing their pocketbook.
Yeah.
You know, that's not our intent. We want them to have a good solid, have a burial plan, have some term, you know, if there is a death for 2 or 3 years, you'll replace 3 or 4 years salary and, you know, the spouse insurance and kind of put it all together.
But what it all boils down to at the end of the day is that we want a relationship with those employees. We want them to know who we are. We want to make sure that they're taken care of. We're up here all the time. I mean, I feel like I live in Birmingham when I really live in Mobile. You know, we just like to have a relationship with them and be able to make sure that those things are taken care of. And that it's most importantly easy on the human resources department.
Speaking of which, where's the third musketeer?
She ended up in Panama City with her mother this week. She had a little procedure and she
okay.
had to go babysit her mom.
Tell her we asked.
Well, in all actuality too, her mom is a CPA and she's helping us get some spreadsheets together, like when we do a lot of takeovers. I mean, we come in and we ask municipality, hey, let us run your insurance. You know, let's do everything. Let us offer the employees everything. And they do. So she's setting us up a deal where we can spreadsheet it out and know exactly where we're at and track everything. And so a dummy like me can just go in and plug in the numbers and you know, as long as I get the premium correct, I'm in great shape.
You're in good
so
shape.
I look
hear you.
I look like I'm smart, you know, but she's on that right now.
Well, just get us that information and we'll look at it and we have a huge HR department here. And we'll just, we'll look at it and we'll go from there. Like to have you guys back,
Yeah.
For some further discussion as it pertains to, life insurance products that you guys have, so.
Well, we would love to do that and, we weren't sure quite how much time we'd have this afternoon, so
Yeah,
we just thought we'd
yeah,
broach
well,
the
that's great.
subject
Shoot,
and
yeah.
we'll send that over to you, and if we can get back on the agenda for another time, we'd like to come and answer some more questions in further detail.
Okay,
All right?
all right, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks a
For your
lot.
time.
All right,
Good
you
to
bet.
see you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you, Mom.
That's fine. Y'all have a good afternoon.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Did she say we couldn't?
Well, I don't know, I think she was having issues trying to set it up, but I'll find out for sure.
Have you got a card on you?
Yes, ma'am.
Leave me one, please.
Now, as far as this 457B, how do we wanna put this on the agenda for tomorrow night? Do we wanna put Great West? Do we wanna put somebody else?
I want you to put Great West on.
I think that's what we need to do.
All I want you to do is let the employees
Right.
have the opportunity to participate in the state's established plan.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to set up a new one.
Right.
Cause I don't wanna be involved in setting up a new one, and I don't wanna be responsible for making sure that we dot our i's and cross our t's.
Yeah, sure.
That was the other guy there, who was
My
the?
card, CDS, and on my card,
He
there,
was
my card.
best.
That's okay, you got my email?
Was he?
Shoot me an email, and I'll talk to
He was
Sandy and get
different
back with you.
from these.
They should have a pretty good option.
Okay,
And they're-
thank you.
They're the,
C squared.
Prestige
they're the
Partners.
third option.
No, there's only two options, there's Great West and
C squared.
Well, there's all kind of companies
ING,
out there
yeah.
that'll do that for you.
But
we're
Great
talking about
West-
tonight, there's only two options, those two.
I
The
think
Great
he was
West-
But no,
talking
they
about
were
the
talking, they were
RSA
talking about,
one.
they
There's
were
not
talking about a
difference.
different
They're
insurance.
different.
They're- Yeah, okay.
Very different.
So,
Yeah.
and I didn't wanna confuse things, but when I asked them about it, they said, yeah, there's another option, which is why he came in to speak. But, you know, after listening to him, I think we're probably better off with Great West, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's all I want y'all to do at this point in time, you know, down the road, you might wanna break out and reestablish
Yeah.
something on your own, but.
Alright, so put Great West on the agenda for tomorrow, please, ma'am. Okay, guys, I think we're probably all aware that we offer certain discounts, on sales tax payments for on-time, submit, or if they submit on time, what's that?
I'm not sure that, I know I brought this up and I
Mhm.
suggested that we look at it, but I have a call in to the state, as long as the state administers, I'm not sure we can remove our discount, because they provide a discount as well as penalties, and I'm not sure that we could remove ours.
We'll-
So
we'll
let me
move- we'll-
follow up on that, and
Just let us know.
That was my understanding
Okay.
way back when.
Alright, I don't really, this updated tobacco tax ordinance, I know why we need it. However, do we have any ideas on, what have some other people done? I mean, do we know?
I talked with some folks about that, I didn't talk with other municipalities, but I talked with the state,
Okay.
and, same guy I talked with about other things down there, but anyway, I just kind of ran it by him and asked him if he saw any problems with us, because the state enacted the legislation a little while back so that we can't raise our tobacco rates.
Right.
You know, they
Sure.
did that a little while back. And he says, well, you're not actually raising your rate, you already have a packaged rate in there. So all you're doing is defining the unit for that package for loose tobacco, so that's all we would need to do. They sell it in ounces.
Per ounce, yeah.
And that's all we
It's
would
pipe
need to do,
tobacco.
yeah. All we would need to do would be add that unit of measure, and it's sold by the ounce, which is a
But it's
prepackaged.
not, it's not loose though, it's packaged.
Our ordinance right now has the rate per, our ordinance right now has the rate per pack of cigarettes, per individual cigars, per,
Yeah.
snuff and all that in containers,
Yeah.
measured containers. This would be a measured container,
Okay.
so we would just put that rate in there.
Per ounce, that's how it's sold.
Yeah, you're
We've
just
on- and as-
defining a unit.
As far as I know, we've only got one outfit in town doing that
I
right
think
now.
there is another one that has made some inquiries.
Well, yeah, in town right now, we've got
Yes.
one.
You
Yeah.
have one, and, I think is another one that has made some inquiries.
Okay.
And
Good.
we've essentially just kinda put them on hold until we can do something.
Well, I think the ounce is definitely, I mean, I think that's a no-brainer. I think we definitely need to do an ounce, so however that needs to go on the agenda,
Okay, and I don't know that I will have it ready for tomorrow.
it's fine. That's fine.
I'll bring you a draft.
Wireless Consultants LLC, what is that, what's going on there, Trish? I know that's probably something that you've been involved with.
Doug actually
Well,
invited me up to talk
Oh,
with him,
okay.
and we both have had some conversations.
Well, I knew since it said wireless, I didn't think it would be Doug. That involves technology.
and it's not, but basically what it is, this guy came and his company looks at all of our cell phone bills, all of our wireless communication bills, and looks for, like AT&T, for instance, I'll just use them as an example. If they were charging us for something that we didn't need, then these guys would look at that and say, you don't really need this, they're charging you for something that you don't need, and take it off, and they only get paid if they save us money, so, you know, they
Okay.
talked pretty good. I mean, I don't know how Trish feels, but I
Do you think
thought there was a need. I mean, I thought we could try them and see if they could save us any money.
If they only get paid based on what we save, then it doesn't hurt to have them.
But now-
That's right.
But
There-
they save based on, I mean, they get paid based on their savings as long as you contract with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they find it and they get paid for it, but they get paid,
For it every month from
If
then
they
on.
save you $10, then.
they get a portion of that savings until you don't contract with them anymore.
Mhm.
It's not a one,
AT&T, so to speak.
Huh.
If the contract's with AT&T, then that's who you're talking about. They get a percentage for the length of the term that you have with AT&T, right?
No, as
No,
long
they
as we
get it
contract with
as
them.
long as you contract with them, and there are
Yeah.
different terms.
Who does the city have?
We don't have anybody.
No, I'm talking about, well,
We have
then they can't
Cell
save you
phone.
any money if you don't have any.
We
Oh, you
have
don't?
AT&T, we
Thank you.
have
I
thought you was talking about who
Verizon,
does
we
that
have
now.
the
Nobody does
internet
that
with the
now.
utilities board,
Oh, this is for everything.
they wanna do everything. Or
Now,
as little as we wanna limit it.
Is there an amount is there an initial fee to get them on board? So they're just gonna come in and look at what we got and they'll get paid based on our savings?
I can, I don't think it's something that you have to do tomorrow.
No,
Since you haven't had benefit of looking at this, I'll make you copies of it.
okay,
And, bring it to you tomorrow. Of course, they wanted us on board yesterday, but it's not
Yeah.
something that has to be
well,
done
and
right away.
would it be possible to get a representative here
Yep.
to talk to us?
He would have been more than happy to come. This was one of the things that we kinda tossed out there at the last work session, but
Okay,
it was one of the ones that got kinda
Yeah.
pushed forward.
Yeah.
And we didn't make any provisions. I didn't make any provisions to get him here, but
Well, let's-
I'll be glad to.
let's see if we can't get him here, not the next one, but 15th.
The second one in September.
Yeah, second work session in September.
Second.
18. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm looking at August, September 15th.
The guy that called on us was kinda breaking in the territory here, and, the person that actually sent me the contract is Alan Jones, and, is it Dan Host, is that his name, Dan Host?
Alan's the one that's been calling me.
Yeah, he's the one that's been calling me too.
I'll probably get Alan to come and make a good presentation.
You wanna handle that, or you want me to?
It don't matter. However you wanna do it, let me know tomorrow.
I'll, make
I mean, you
copies
can
of this.
call him if you want to, you got all his information. And he said that's actually important, he's been talking to you, so.
I'll call him and ask him.
But I'll be glad to do it if you need me to.
We just need to make copies of all this for the council, so they'll have something to look at.
Okay, guys, let's move on past this reimbursement resolution, cause I don't think there's anything ready to go on that. CDG proposal for payment, are we ready to entertain that yet?
I have the invoice. Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. I don't have that invoice.
Alright, so, let's just move on past that. I think that's gonna be something that we need them back in, I mean, we just need to decide whether we're gonna spend that money.
I
I
think
think
those,
we need to get a little further into the next budget.
those two
What
are
I was
hooked
thinking,
together.
is see where we're,
Those two are hooked together.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, they are, and it's 60 days retroactive,
Right.
so,
Is that the price that they set to do that evaluation?
79,
It was,
79.
was it 60, wasn't it
169.
69 and something else?
Oh, yeah, the GIS was extra,
It was, I
okay,
think the street survey, the street inventory was 69, and the other was
20,
25.
no, 25, okay.
$69.25.
You remember that.
Pretty smart. He was a genius. Okay, so we'll roll CDG on over, cause those two are connected.
And along the same lines, you know, we've got, Wynn has got a proposal from the Blackwater guy, and he keeps calling, wanting us to sign that, and I told Wynn, you know, we've gotta be comfortable with it before we sign anything,
Sure.
so.
Sure.
We're kinda, he's wanting us to go ahead and sign that, but
Yeah.
No, we've changed that since that conversation.
well, I know, and he sent the last proposal back to that guy. And, I think Walter Lewis has been calling Wynn also.
He's sending what we wanted it to read like and see where they go from there.
Yeah, I want us to be comfortable with it instead of him, so.
Okay.
Got a question?
Yes, sir.
Does anybody know the status of, recommendation from the planning commission about the Avondale property passed a couple of months ago?
I've got something that said they recommended the zoning to allow for recreational use, but they didn't have a zoning, a zoning number. That was part of the minutes.
Zoning number.
Like a B4
B4, R1.
Okay.
They didn't give a zoning
Designation.
recommendation,
I think that was
designation.
a typo then, because it was supposed to, it was from that meeting, but I just.
I haven't
We
heard
had never
anything about it.
seen it.
I have
That's
not
what-
heard anything about
Right,
it.
that's what I'm saying. I hadn't heard anything from it since that meeting, so a couple of months ago.
I think they just recommended stay at R1 and then
I can't remember the specifics of it, but
be able
it
to
did have,
use it as
it did
designated
have,
recreational, for recreational use.
The minutes just said that.
and I was asked at the last meeting what we were gonna do with it, and I said, well, it hadn't come before us.
That's right.
So ask.
It's time for us to do
So I said,
something with
I'll
it.
ask.
There you go. Hey, go back to the front page real quick, guys. Is everybody okay with changing these work sessions, the regular start time from 5:30 to 5 p.m.? Is that a problem for anybody?
Is there a reason?
Well, I mean,
Don't
just-
matter, I just want.
Just to get out of here earlier.
Okay, that's fine.
Start earlier, get out earlier.
Yeah.
Start early, get out late.
Is everybody cool with that?
Yeah, 'cause my alarm clock is already going
Well, I
off.
should say, is everybody okay with putting that on the agenda? Okay. All right. Trish, you got a job description on there? Are you good with it? Everything good to go?
Okay, the fire captain needs to come off.
Yeah,
There was a
we're
question.
taking it off.
Okay, there was a question on that.
Yeah.
I gave y'all copies
Yeah.
of the job description. Now, the Civil Service Board requested that I add 2 words to it. And in reviewing it, the red is the highlights are the changes that were put in there. That is a little bit more than what the Civil Service Board recommended, but,
You're gonna get it kicked out again.
well, I don't know why I would. It didn't do anything other than,
Cause you added more than 2 words.
well, probably so.
But you're good with this? I mean,
I'm good
the
with it.
Civil Service
I think it
Board
still says
is-
what they wanted it to say, because they wanted in accounting added to it.
So we've gotta approve that again. We approved it back in March, and we need
Yes,
to
sir.
approve the updated.
Yes, sir, and it still has to go back to them.
Okay. Alright,
I guess before they'll post it. They have to review it again before they'll post it.
we gotta pay up on, our invoice for Sarah. Invoice number 1, that's 21,000. That's just the revenue sharing and incentive agreement.
Okay, I got a question on that one.
Yeah.
I didn't think this was gonna start until they started doing the other stuff, not just, they're pretty much the same place they are before. And I mean, obviously they added some business, but I thought they were gonna be adding
Already.
the extra lot.
They ain't done nothing over there.
Right, that's why I was asking. That was part of it, a big part of this. I mean, did anybody talk with them about that, or was this just, I thought it wasn't gonna start until, in fact, I asked that question, when does it start? And they said when we,
They completed all of their
when we
renovations.
well, I don't know if it was completed, but started.
Ben had a conversation with him. This is actually a modified invoice.
Okay. Who did?
When?
Okay.
So this is based on what?
This is based on when they started?
When they started selling, after the agreement was signed, when they started selling. They started selling before we ever signed an agreement with them.
I think Tom's talking about the renovations to the,
To the other lot.
to the
Area
store,
between the
new
Honda store and the bank.
What did that ordinance call for? Was it pay back every 6 months? When do we give them their refund? Rebate, refund?
We,
Was
don't
it
we
quarterly?
pay them,
I thought it
I
was
thought
6
it was
months.
quarterly.
Quarterly?
I think it is quarterly.
I didn't bring the contract with me, but it's quarterly.
So you're comfortable with this now that Wynn has, I mean,
I think he looked at the same things I looked at, and there were a couple of things that apparently got past everybody, so. Because the start date is when they start selling cars.
they got past us then. Cause that's sure the way it reads.
When I got the first invoice, I had a conversation with Wynn and I pulled the contract,
That's the way it reads.
read it a little more closely. And they pulled off a couple of months, I think.
Okay. Alright, well, that's what we agreed to, so, there it is. Didn't we do this last time? Didn't we, the travel dates for?
It didn't get on the agenda.
Okay.
We talked about it, but it didn't actually get on there.
They're changing some dates, for Shannon and Tom to go to your town.
Nothing on that.
Got accounts payable, anybody got anything on accounts payable? Okay, that's it, everything else.
The barbecue cook-off, can I get one of those?
Yeah,
if y'all don't
sure.
mind?